Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're embarking on an incredible journey, one that spans continents and millennia. We're going to explore how a philosophy born in a small corner of ancient India, from the mind of a single prince, became one of the world's major religions and philosophies. This is the story of Buddhism's epic journey across the globe. It all begins over 2,500 years ago with a man named Siddhartha Gautama. Born a prince in what is now Nepal, he lived a life of luxury, shielded from the world's suffering. But a few fateful trips outside his palace walls changed everything. He saw an old man, a sick man, and a corpse, and it shattered his reality. He realized that suffering was an inescapable part of life for everyone, regardless of their status. This profound realization led him to renounce his wealth, his family, and his title. He set out on a spiritual quest to understand the nature of suffering and find a way to end it. After years of intense meditation and self-discipline, Siddhartha finally achieved enlightenment while sitting under a Bodhi tree. He became the Buddha, which means the awakened one. He had discovered what he called the Four Noble Truths. Life is suffering. Suffering is caused by craving. And attachment, suffering can be ended, and the path to end suffering is the Noble Eightfold Path. This path wasn't about worshiping a god. It was a practical guide to ethical conduct, mental discipline, and wisdom. It was a blueprint for living a mindful, compassionate, and balanced life. For the next 45 years, the Buddha traveled throughout the Ganges River plain, teaching this newfound path, the Dharma, to anyone who would listen, from kings and merchants to farmers and outcasts. He didn't write anything down. Instead, he shared his teachings orally, building a community of monks and nuns known as the Sangha. This community was vital. They were the ones who memorized, recited, and preserved the Buddha's teachings, ensuring they would survive long after he was gone. After the Buddha's passing, his followers gathered at the first Buddhist council to standardize these teachings, compiling them into what would become the Tripitaka, or the three baskets of Buddhist scripture. But how did these ideas break out of India? The single most important figure in the spread of Buddhism was an emperor named Ashoka the Great. In the 3rd century BCE, Ashoka ruled the vast Mauryan Empire, which covered most of the Indian subcontinent. Initially, he was a ruthless conqueror, but after a particularly bloody war, the Kalinga War, he was horrified by the carnage he had caused. He converted to Buddhism and dedicated the rest of his reign to ruling with compassion and nonviolence. Ashoka became Buddhism's greatest champion. He erected pillars and rock edicts across his empire, inscribed with Buddhist principles of morality and kindness. But he didn't stop there. He sent Buddhist missionaries far and wide. He sent his own son, Mahinda, and daughter, Sanghamita, to Sri Lanka. They carried with them a sapling from the original Bodhi tree, and their mission was a massive success. Sri Lanka became a stronghold of Theravada Buddhism, a school that prides itself on preserving the Buddha's earliest teachings. To this day, the lineage of that Bodhi tree sapling still grows in Sri Lanka. From India and Sri Lanka, Buddhism began to travel along the world's most famous trade route, the Silk Road. Imagine this incredible network, not just for silk and spices, but for ideas. Monks, merchants, and pilgrims carried Buddhist texts and art along these dusty trails. This is how Buddhism reached Central Asia, Afghanistan, and eventually, China. When Buddhism arrived in China around the 1st century CE, it was a completely foreign concept. China already had well-established philosophies like Confucianism and Taoism. At first, many saw Buddhism as just another form of Taoism. But over centuries, through the tireless work of translators who painstakingly rendered Sanskrit texts into Chinese, Buddhism began to take root. It blended with local beliefs, giving rise to new and distinctly Chinese schools like Chan Buddhism, which you probably know by its Japanese name, Zen. From China, this new form of Buddhism spread to Korea and then to Japan in the 6th century, where it would have a profound impact on everything from art and architecture to samurai culture. While Buddhism was flourishing in East Asia, it was also traveling south. Maritime trade routes, the Sea Silk Roads, carried Buddhist teachings from India and Sri Lanka to the kingdoms of Southeast Asia. Places like modern-day Myanmar, Thailand, Cambodia, Laos, and Indonesia became major centers of Buddhist learning and culture. The magnificent temples of Bagan in Myanmar and the breathtaking complex of Borobudur in Indonesia are stunning testaments to the deep influence Buddhism had in this region. In each place, it adapted, merging with local animist beliefs and traditions, creating unique expressions of the faith. But what about Tibet, the rooftop of the world? Buddhism arrived here much later, around the 7th century CE. It came not just from India, but also from China. In the unique, isolated environment of the Himalayas, Indian Buddhist tantric practices merged with the local Bon religion. This fusion gave birth to a very distinct and esoteric form of Buddhism, Vajrayana, or Tibetan Buddhism. This is the tradition of the Dalai Lama, known for its complex rituals, mandalas, and a deep focus on the guru-disciple relationship to achieve enlightenment in a single lifetime. Interestingly, while Buddhism was conquering Asia, it began to decline in the land of its birth, India. The reasons are complex. The rise of devotional Hindu movements, the loss of royal patronage, and invasions from Central Asia all played a part. By the 13th century, Buddhism had almost vanished from India, surviving only in the Himalayan regions. So how did it become the global phenomenon it is today? The next chapter of our story begins in the 19th and 20th centuries. Scholars from Europe became fascinated with ancient Eastern texts. They began translating Buddhist scriptures into English, German, and French, introducing the philosophy to the Western world for the first time. Thinkers like Schopenhauer and Nietzsche engaged with its ideas. Then came the Asian diaspora. Immigrants from China, Japan, Vietnam, and other Buddhist countries brought their faith with them to the West, establishing temples and communities in their new homes. And in the 1960s, a counterculture movement in the West, disillusioned with materialism, looked to the East for spiritual answers. Figures like Alan Watts and the Beat poets popularized Zen, while teachers like Shunryu Suzuki and Chogyam Trungpa brought authentic Zen and Tibetan teachings to a receptive Western audience. Today, Buddhism is a truly global religion. From a Zen monastery in California to a Theravada temple in Thailand, from a Tibetan center in France to a Pure Land group in Brazil, the teachings of a prince who lived 2,500 years ago continue to offer a path to wisdom and compassion for millions. The story of Buddhism is a powerful reminder of how one person's quest for truth can ripple outwards, crossing borders, cultures, and generations to change the world. Thanks so much for watching. If you found this journey as fascinating as I did, please hit that like button and subscribe for more explorations into history and philosophy. Let me know in the comments what part of this story surprised you the most. See you in the next one.